You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
All right, hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is a special Tuesday night version of Knightline, number 265 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Roger Phipps, and on this week's show, the Pirates get blown down. The number 3 Bearkittens are coming out to play. We give you an injury update, your questions in Ask Knightline, the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week, and news and notes.
All righty. Well, yep, we're playing the number 3, believe it or not, the number 3 Cincinnati Bearcats this week. Congratulations to them, by the way, for being number 3. I just have to say, they've almost bested what the Cows did for 1 week. So we shall see if they remain number 3 or they, move up to number 2 and do actually best what the Cows did for 1 week. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully we can go in there and do something miraculous and win the game, so they don't remain at number 3. But
I'm with you on that. I think that obviously we're rooting for UCF this weekend. However, if they do get past us, I know a lot of people will probably be against this, but I don't typically root for conference mates, but they're conference mates twice over, right? So they're going to be the American conference mates and our conference mates in the Big 12. So if anything, I think it's validation of the teams coming in. And, this is a senior-laden team that's worked really, really, really hard. So these guys, have put in a lot of hours to get where they are. And I will root for them if they make it to the playoff.
I won't. No, I kind of consider Cincinnati a rival. Right. And the most that I can do is congratulate them on almost being better than USF for a week. So, that's about it. That's
I'm hoping I'm hoping with the same way as you, though, that we end that streak and knock them down a couple pegs.
Yeah. All right. Well, last week we played the East Carolina Pirates. It was good in some ways, not good in other ways. I had a good time of the game. I enjoyed myself. We won, which is very important. We really needed that win after 2 losses. But one of the worst things that came out of it is Kalia Davis is out now for the rest of the year. If you haven't heard that, you probably have already since it's Tuesday. He is out with a torn ACL, and he's having surgery later this week. So first sound clip will be Gus talking about Kalia Davis on Monday.
Yeah, that was a tough blow. We lost him for the year. That's what we did, and he'll have surgery in the near future. Phenomenal player, phenomenal person. I think he's one of the best players in our conference. So obviously it's a big blow for us. It's next man up mentality. I will tell you this: once he went down, our defense still played well after that. So we got to have the next man up.
All right, next man up, like he says. So. That is what it is. It's very unfortunate for him, technically missing the last 2 years. He played for a couple of games this year, obviously 4 games, 5 games. I don't even know how many it's been, 4 games, I think. Maybe it's 5. I can't even tell anymore. But but anyway, it's 5, I think.
This will be our 5th one, I think, Cincinnati.
Is Cincy the 5th one?
I think so, because we had Boise, then we had
Bethune,
the Cardinals,
Navy.
Bethune.
So
yeah,
it's
forgot
5th.
about Bethune.
Yeah, so
Yep,
that was the 5th game. So this will
Yep.
be the 6th game coming up. So anyway, so he got to play 5 games. This season was out all last season. He opted out with the COVID thing. So he hasn't played a lot in the last couple of years. So I believe he still has one more year, technically, if he would like to come back. From what he said on Twitter, his statement, either on Twitter or I think it was maybe his newsletter that he sends out, that, it didn't totally sound like he was planning on coming back and playing college football, but it didn't sound like he wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was extremely vague. So we will see.
I mean, think about it from his perspective. He just got injured. He's going to have to go through surgery. He's nowhere near ready to even think about whether he's going to come back. I mean, if he works his knee, and depending on how well that resolves itself, if it goes well, he might be more apt to do that. Plus, I mean, I can't imagine that he's not going to miss football while he's out. But at the end of the day, it just depends on what he's after. I know he's into a lot of other different things that he's trying to promote. His Twitch stream is one of them. So he may decide to pursue all of that instead of, coming back for them playing football, because it is a lot of hard work. People forget that. It's a lot of time, effort, hard work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, whatever. I wasn't saying... I mean, I fully expect him to come back and play again. I mean, that's my opinion.
I hope he does.
But I wasn't getting that involved in it, I guess. I didn't think about it as much as you did there. So
that's me, always overthinking.
Well, yeah. That's true. Okay, let's get into Ask Knightline. We've got a few questions that were posed on Twitter for us, and they're a couple days old, so let's get into that real quick, and we'll talk about a lot more. Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. All right, starting off with Ask Knightline, the questions that you posed to us on Twitter with the hashtag Ask Knightline. First of all, Selena, UCF Selena, one of our good friends. The team was super disciplined under O'Leary, but Frost loosened up a bit. I always thought O'Leary still had an impact on how disciplined those Frost teams were. I feel like the team lost a lot of discipline under Heupel. Are we seeing the effects of that? In other words, should we expect to continue to see penalties for the rest of the season while Gus gets all that under control? Does that take time and coaching? I mean... Are we having penalty issues? Like, really? Like, I mean, this is the first that I've even thought of this year. I didn't think that we were really having penalty issues. I mean, we could be, I guess. I mean, if Selena is seeing it, I mean, I think it's the first time, though, this season that I've really heard anybody question penalties, personally.
Well, we had more than East Carolina did this past game. I believe it was either 10 penalties for 80 yards or 8 penalties for 80 yards, one of the two. To me, I think it's they've been playing pretty clean as well. The only ones that really jumped out at me were early on when some of the defensive backs were not playing the ball and were playing the body. And when they were playing the body, they were committing some pass interference. But that's really been cleaned up. The rest of the stuff is just false start penalties, whatever. So, 80 yards is a lot of yards, but it's not O'Leary ball. And George O'Leary also played a lot simpler offense than what we do. And, to me, when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking, okay, George O'Leary, we're going to run 3 yards in a cloud of dust for 3 downs, and then we're going to try, or 2 downs, and we're going to try to pass the ball on 3rd down, right? I don't see that with Gus. He's playing a lot of trick plays that creates opportunities for people to be out of position. Obviously the linemen are thinking about all the things they have to do because it's a lot more complicated blocking scheme. So I don't know. To me, comparing it to O'Leary ball, that's I think a byproduct of the difference in the offenses. But that being said, this year to me is a lot better than it was last year compared to Heupel. I mean, Heupel's offense and Dylan Gabriel at the beginning of this season was talking about the differences between Heupel's offense and Gus's offense. Basically, Heupel said, left the receivers the opportunity to take certain routes depending on what they saw. So Dylan never knew where he needed to go with the ball. He had to wait on his receivers to open up so that he could see what route they were going to take and then throw the ball. This season, it's a little bit different and more disciplined because they've got specific hot routes. They're going specific areas. He knows if he's seeing this defense, he's going to go to this receiver.
I'm not sure what that has to do with penalties, though.
Well, what I was going to go with that is Heupel's philosophy around that puts a lot more emphasis on the individual player and them thinking about what they're going to do and not everybody being as cohesive or knowing exactly where they're going to be, which leads to mistakes. Okay. So, and mistakes lead to penalties. So it's a completely different mindset on how they're running those offenses.
Okay. Well, the only penalties that I can really even remember throughout the season so far were the glaring ones, the pass interference ones, where the corners and safeties weren't turning their heads back. That's right. That's really all that I can remember of penalties this season. So it's not nearly as big of a problem as it was last year. Last year, and even the year before, Heupel's teams were just very undisciplined. Period. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think Gus is more of an O'Leary type guy as far as that goes, and there's probably consequences for penalties. I honestly, now that I look at the stats, yeah, we had 8 for 80, but I don't even remember one of those, like during the game, and being like, oh my God, what's going on with the penalties? So all good if Selena was. I mean, I'm not dogging her or making fun of her or anything, but these were penalties that I didn't even notice that much. So I think when we're noticing them more and harping on them a lot more, obviously it's a big deal, but I honestly hadn't even noticed, to be honest with you. So except for those ones in the very beginning of the season with the pass interference stuff. And I mean, I'm trying to remember back to this game. Did we have we may have had a penalty for too many guys in the backfield one time, possibly, on offense, where a receiver was lined up farther
Correct.
back than he should have, or something like that. Maybe that's one
legal
that I
formation.
Yeah, maybe that's one that I remember, but besides that, I couldn't tell you what any of those 8 penalties were, even if that was one of the ones. I don't even know. That may have been another game I was watching. But
no, there was I remember the illegal formation penalty. You're right on that one.
That's pretty easy, though, as well, because linemen, when they line up as pass protection, the ends kind of bow in around the center instead of being, straight. So a guy could easily have had his foot back, to get a little bit of an extra jump, and they'll count that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any specifics as far as that goes, but I'm not nearly as worried about it as I was last year for sure. Okay, Tony Cummings, UCF at UCF 365, only has really one this week, so that's pretty cool. Different for him. Not cool, but different for him. What was your favorite offensive play and defensive play for the ECU game? Well, now since it's Tuesday, I'm really having to go back and obviously, I'm going to have to look at the stat sheet for some of these plays, to be honest with you. I think my favorite play, though, was when Johnny Richardson caught that pass coming out of the backfield or real close to the line and took it for like 50 yards, 47 yards or 49 yards or something like that. Obviously, that was probably the biggest play of the game, except for the touchdown at the end. Those two would be my offensive play of that game. And defensive for me would be anytime the quarterback got sacked, and that was a few times. So, we talk a lot about the sacks, and I'm one of those people that always says as well when we're talking about that it's not about sacks as much as it is pressure. But I do like to see the quarterback sacks. They're fun to watch. It's fun to especially when it's important to see that quarterback get tugged down or taken down behind the line. It's always a fun thing. It always gets everybody excited. So those would be my particular special plays of the game.
Well, I'm going to agree with you on the offensive side of the ball. That was going to be my pick as well. Listen, passes were averaging 5 yards per pass. So there wasn't a whole lot of, explosive fireworks when it came to deep balls and catches. As far as the defense is concerned, I'm going to say my favorite play, and I won't say most impactful, but my favorite play was when ECU went down to the red zone the first time and we forced the fumble and got the ball. That was, that was my favorite play of the game defensively. And, I'm going to say this kind of tongue in cheek, but my favorite plays of the game, the most impactful plays, was every time that they got to the red zone, and 3 out of 4 times we held them to a field goal. Yeah. So I think for me, that was, defensively, each time we did that, we got good pressure and we played great in the red zone, which has been a problem for us historically in recent years.
All righty. A new one for us, I believe. This guy is hashtag Tenhana. And then also at Free Sport Travel. I don't think we've ever got a question from this person before, so thank you very much for giving us a question. In honor of the Hall of Fame inductions last week, if dyslexia boys, if Dylan Gabriel does not play another down for UCF, is his body of work good enough to get into the UCF Hall of Fame? Oh. This is an interesting question, actually, and I would really have to look at the record books, and that would kind of have to. It would take me a little bit of time to get to that. I think I probably can find it here fairly quickly, but I think a lot of that would depend on, to me personally, if Mackenzie Milton gets into the Hall of Fame, which I think he will. I think it'd be dumb not to have him in the Hall of Fame anyway, just because he was so impactful for UCF. So I believe, obviously, he will go in before Dylan Gabriel. I don't know, though. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's body of work has been nearly what Mackenzie's has, though. I don't know. I mean, yes, he was a part of high-powered offenses and stuff like that, but not nearly as much of it was him as it was Mackenzie Milton during Mackenzie's tenure. You know what I'm saying? So if you were comparing the two of someone that I think is a sure shoo-in, which would be Mackenzie Milton, I don't know if Dylan Gabriel in the 3 seasons stacks up to that, personally. Without looking at the record book. So maybe, Roger, you give your opinion on this, and then I'll try to find a record book that I can look at here real quick.
Okay. So for my response, I'm going to emphatically say no. And I'm saying that for Dylan Gabriel's career up to this point. Now, has he been fantastic in creating offensive numbers? Has he been a fantastic quarterback? Absolutely. However, Hall of Fame careers are typically, and the NFL is full of these. Asante Samuel is a perfect example of that. Are measured by wins and success and championships. And unfortunately, Dylan's ball hasn't bounced that way yet. I don't feel like I hate to say he hasn't won big games, because he has won big games. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Hasn't won nearly as many of them as McKenzie.
Exactly.
I mean, what big game? I mean, to be honest with you, like list a big game that Dylan Gabriel won.
Well, it depends on what you define as a big game. I mean, he slaughtered Stanford. They didn't turn out to be that great that year, but there was a lot of hype going into that game. He's lost some games that weren't losses because of him. For example, a missed field goal against Cincinnati. But
that's one of the knocks that people say about him, is he can't win the big game. That's been one of the
I don't
ones.
Think that he's not
Heupel, under Heupel, they didn't win any big games. I mean, they won a bowl game, bowl game.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't think he has the credits to be in the UCF Hall of Fame personally,
and that's why I said it's an emphatic no for me right now at this point in his career.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I know that he's fairly high up in some of the records, because he got started early. So, and I can't find it, to be honest with you. I can find last year's, but I think this is last year's. I do not think that this is this year's. So, I'll have to see here. Career. Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be this year's, and then nothing obviously from this year would be in there. He definitely doesn't have the rushing yards. Just looking at some of the categories, obviously, McKenzie is pretty high up on there for a season, especially beating out Dante Culpepper. Yeah, I'd have to do a lot more research on this, but I'm sure he holds some records. I know that he had a streak of games, I think, of certain yards or whatever, and I'm not sure what that was. But just thinking off the top of my head, I don't see it. I mean, obviously he's a really good quarterback, and obviously we want him back if he has the opportunity to come back and play this year or next year if he chooses to. But I'm perfectly fine as well if we have to move on with Mikey Keene or whoever it's going to be. A lot of us thought that after this year, Dylan Gabriel would go to try to go to the NFL anyway. So, I mean, I would think possibly that changes because of this season, because he should be able to get a medical red shirt. Only playing in the 3 games, I think it was for him. So I believe he would qualify for medical redshirt, especially if he was not able to return at all this season. So, I mean, we could have another year with him. And, I mean, obviously he would be welcomed back, but I think he would have to win his job back as well.
I mean, listen, if he wants to go to the NFL, I don't think his resume, especially coming off of this season and it ending so early, would position him well if that was his ultimate goal.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. So, all right. Well, that was an interesting question and an interesting thing to think about as well. So, I enjoy questions like that. It was a great question. John Swift, our good buddy John Swift, UCF, at John Swift, UCF, hypothetical. If UCF is +2 in turnover margin against Cincy, is that enough for an upset W? I think it's going to take a little bit more than +2, personally. And I hope that is going to happen. Cincinnati, this year doesn't make a lot of mistakes. They're a pretty good football team. So, I find it would help for sure. I don't know if just +2 will do it, though. I think it's going to take a lot more than that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, well, without going into the analysis, I do think the Bowser question is going to play into this pretty heavily, right? I do think that Cincinnati's a sound football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They play time and possession ball. They don't pass very far. They do a lot of heavy running to try to wear your defense out. We have our starting 2 defensive tackles that are out, so that doesn't help us any. But I think ultimately, if we have a +2 on the turnovers, it's all going to depend on how much ball control and time of possession we can leverage if Bowser's back. If Bowser's back and we can run it down their throat and play that type of game, that's going to limit, because of how they play, it's going to limit the number of possessions each team has. And if you have +2 possessions, you should, if not have at least a close game where you have a chance to win, you should at least be in position to win. So I'm not saying that they would, but I think that it would be a really, really close game. And I would say maybe a 50% chance that we win that game.
Okay. Is there even a possibility that Bowser's going to be back? Is that being talked about? Is someone?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Is that solid information? Because I haven't heard that yet.
Not solid. I'm going to say I've heard that Bowser might be back for this game. Okay. He said that he made a comment. I can't remember if it was an interview. I think it was an interview where he had said that he should be back for this game.
Okay. Well, I mean,
or that he's expecting to be back, but I don't want to put that out there because you know what I mean. That's not confirmed. In
the ESPN thing that they're doing all season, I can't remember what it's called at this point. The Our Time show that they're doing. He said that he was talking to somebody, in the background or whatever, and basically said his injury is not a season-ending injury. So maybe that's where somebody thought that may mean that he's going to be back this game. I haven't heard anything about that. So it would be nice if he's back, and I think it would definitely help. It would be huge if he would be back, because we're not the same team without him.
Agreed.
At all. So I think that would help Mikey Keene out tremendously if he was back. So, alrighty, moving on here as soon as I can get this back up in front of me. And this is Brian W. Peterson at Brian W. Peterson. After last night's game, what are your thoughts on our offense under Mikey Keene? Offense seemed to struggle. Is that due to lack of receiver depth, QB inexperience, or vanilla play calling on purpose? Why don't Gus let Mikey sling it deep? I think that was his game plan, to be honest with you. I think the game plan was to be just what you saw out there, maybe a little bit more than that, but I think the offense was vanilla on purpose in this game. I think that, we didn't totally play ball control because he actually threw it more times than we ran it. But I think they kept it super simple for a reason. I don't know if that reason is because they don't trust Mikey Keene, because I don't think that that's the case. I just think that they wanted to play super safe and win the game in whatever way that they had to win the game, personally. Gus has not said that, but that's just kind of my gut feeling is as I saw things going along and there not being a bunch of those, throwing it way down the field, because Mikey can throw it. We've seen him throw it. We saw him throw it at Navy. We saw him, throw it and then passes got dropped. Maybe that would have worked a little bit better if more passes didn't get dropped. But I think that it was kind of intentional to keep it super vanilla this game and just to play very safe and win the game. Not do anything crazy, just, I just feel like it was kept like that personally. That's my opinion.
Well, for me, I mean, it may have been just to give Mikey a little bit of a break and let him get a win under his belt. But I tend to agree with you. I think what you don't want to do is anything that you're working on with him, and with Cincinnati coming up with such a big game, if you feel like you can win with what you have and it's working during the game, then you don't pull the rabbits out of the hat, right? You keep them tucked inside. And, I mean, it was a little scary there for a few minutes until the very end, but I feel like Gus probably thought he had the superior talent on the field. And for the most part, he does. I will say that our receivers, they're hurting right now, our receiver depth. They're not getting as much separation as what we're used to. On top of that, we've got some injuries. Obviously, Jay Flash is out. Not necessarily the receivers, but more on the tight ends. There's some drops. So those are drive killers when those things happen. So if he's seeing a trend with drops, I would think he would probably want to play it more conservative until they get them on the jugs machine or they have more confidence in there. But I tend to agree with Andrew. I think personally that, Gus has shown he's a gambler. So I think he was just playing it safe in order to keep as much of next week's game plan in as possible.
Yeah. I think that Gus is extremely an extreme smart coach, and he's been doing this for a long time. And I wouldn't put it past him at all to, pull the reins back quite a bit, just for film purposes even. Because you've only got one other game against Mikey Keenan's quarterback to go off of, and that was against Navy. Anytime you play Navy, the whole thing's weird anyway, offense and defense. So I don't know. Who knows what we're going to see? I think they're going to go for it, though, against Cincinnati. And I think that you will see something much more like we're used to. And I think he lets the reins go a little bit and lets Mikey go quite a bit more. I think he will do anything to win this game against Cincinnati. It would be absolutely huge as a 20.5-point underdog to go into Cincinnati and beat them with, a very banged up team. It would be incredible. So I wouldn't put anything past Gus, though, as far as trickery goes and, making something look worse than it actually is, personally. So, all right, well, we'll see. We'll see about that. That's just speculation on my part, but we shall see. All right, well, that does it for the Ask Knightline questions. Thank you guys for doing that. Really appreciate it. Always makes for interesting conversation, and I especially appreciate new people asking questions. Not that I don't appreciate the old people asking questions, obviously, but it's nice to have someone new every once in a while. It means that we're reaching more people, I guess. So appreciate that. All right, let's take a break here real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the ECU game, and then obviously we're going to get into talking a little bit more about Cincinnati as well. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, back to talking about the ECU game here real quick for a little while. Definitely things that we need to talk about. One of the first things is I want you to hear Gus's opening statement from the press conference after the game.
Very proud of our team. You know, we had two as tough a losses I've seen back-to-back. And our guys, they didn't flinch. They practiced extremely well. You know, they practiced hard. They were determined. They willed us to win, and our crowd was outstanding. Our crowd willed us to win, and it was just a really good night. It's a big win for us. That's a good football team. They've been playing really good. Offensively, they're really scary. For our defense to play like they did, I thought Coach Williams and his staff had a great plan for our guys. I think our guys executed it. We were worried about stopping the run with the guy that's averaging 10 yards every time he touches it. We did that. Holding those guys to field goals I thought was huge at times. And then offensively, we sputtered back and forth all night. But when the game was on the line, they went, 60-some yards, 11 plays. I had a big fourth down pickup right there. Mark Anthony was fresh. He drug a couple people, broke some tackles, and then we gave him the ball back with 20 seconds. So it was I'm real proud of the guys. Big win for us and much needed.
All righty, I agree with that. Very important win and definitely much needed. Losing 2 games in a row is bad enough, but when you get into the third and the fourth, it gets going downhill pretty quickly after that. So definitely a much needed win.
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, that's the understatement of the year, right? Coming off of 2 straight losses that way. We're not used to this. And, obviously for the team, it's a morale booster, especially with a new wet behind the ears quarterback that's back there. We definitely needed this win. I mean, if we didn't get this win, this would have been tough to stop that skid, especially with Cincinnati coming up the next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to beat an ECU if you think you're going to have any kind of a chance whatsoever against number 3 Cincinnati. We've obviously done fairly well against Cincinnati in the past. I think this year's a little bit different. They're a heck of a football team. But if you don't beat ECU, I don't think there's any chance at all to even think about going in and beating a Cincinnati team that they are this year. One of the coolest things that I heard all week was sometimes we get a little bit of a glimpse into the locker room. UCF will post the after the game speech in the locker room by the coach. This week's was really cool, though. I really liked it. So I pulled that off of Twitter, and here that is. This is Gus talking in the locker room after the ECU win.
How about that defense? Offense with a game on the line, you delivered. That's special teams. When we were trying to figure out if we should kick it deep, knock a hole in them. I'm going to leave you with this. We had probably as 2 tough a losses back-to-back any team in the country. Matter of fact, maybe in a long time in college football. But let me just tell you, y'all didn't flinch. You didn't buy into all the bull crap outside. You fought. And remember what we said, all right? That mindset. Refuse to lose. And that's what you guys did tonight. And I'm real proud of you.
All right, that was some emotion coming out of Gus there, for sure. He was riled up after this win. I think he saw what the team needed to do and what he wanted to see from the team. You know, the team fought hard in that game. They fought back in the end. When, some people may have thought that it was over. I never in this game did I ever think we're going to lose this game. We're going to lose this game. For some reason, I thought that we would come back in the end and win it, and we did. And I think that he thought that as well. I mean, it's tough when you get down like that, though, especially after having a couple losses that we just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've both played football. Obviously, you played at a little bit higher level than I did. But at the end of the day, when you're in the game, football's an emotional game. You see it when you're watching it and you see momentum swings, right? The championship caliber teams, we saw that with the 2013 teams. We saw that with the 2017 teams. They were mentally tough. They never thought that they were going to lose. And this is a young football team. They're missing a bunch of starters. When you start getting down or you feel like you just can't get over the hump, it's tough to stay mentally in the game and sharp. And especially since we lost 2 close games in, the Louisville game and then the Navy game right there at the end. So that can wear on you. So this win, I think it was validation for Gus. Obviously, I believe it was a milestone win for him as well. I can't remember.
I think it was his 80th win as a head coach, I believe. Yeah, 80 and 40 now in his career as a head coach.
That's a heck of a winning percentage in football. But
it is.
That being said, at the end of the day, I think he's happy for the team. They're coming together in an adverse situation, and at the end of the day, they overcame, and that's what builds teams. Overcoming adversity together is what builds teams and gives you the strength to win the close ones.
Yeah. Well, a couple other record things and notes from this. I really love that UCF puts out these game notes after the game and talks about things that happened during the game and in the records and all that stuff and things that were broken and all that stuff. UCF, this is one of the things that we have to remember. Yes, we're down a little bit this year because we lost those 2 games so far. UCF is now 44-10 in its last 54 games, which trails only Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Georgia in that span. That's some good names to be associated with, personally. I don't care if you don't like any of those teams. Clemson's having a bad year. I mean, at least it's not as bad as Clemson. We're not having nearly the year that they're having. They're having a horrible year. They were supposed to be, what were they? They started out like number 2 or something like that. They were almost national champions last year, and they come out and lose games that they shouldn't lose. We've lost games that we shouldn't lose. But it's not as bad as that, personally. Also, this is a good thing, especially for those of you that have been around for a long time watching UCF and rooting for UCF. UCF is now tied with East Carolina 10-10 in the all-time series and has won each of the last 6 games. 6 games in a row we've beat ECU. So 10-10 against them and evened the all-time series. And I know that one has been going. That's been going for a long time, 20 games. And a lot of people think of ECU as a little bit of a rivalry as well. I know Kyle Israel, who's not going to be with us this week, but because we're doing a special Tuesday night edition, and he wasn't available. But I know he hates East Carolina, like absolutely hates them. So, that's a good thing and a big thing to even a series. Especially, one lasting that long. That's a long time. So
yeah, it went back to when we were Division Two team was the first time we played ECU. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long we've been playing them, and they absolutely were a game that was circled when we were in Conference USA. I'm dating myself a little bit here, but I was around in Conference USA days, and I certainly remember that ECU was a rival. And then, Hale Perryman kind of took the breath out of the program, and they've been mediocre at best. But yeah,
I don't think we've played them 6 times since then, though. Have we? Have we played them 6? Well, that hasn't been that long ago.
2014, I believe, was the season that happened.
Okay.
So, if it was 2014, we're in 2021 now, right? So that's 7 seasons.
Okay, well maybe that was. Okay, that's crazy.
Time flies when you're beating ECU.
It does. That seems like yesterday at times when the Hail Perryman thing there.
You know what I remember about that is my son, who's now 15, he was asleep, as was my daughter, and I just remember I got so mad at the game because we were winning handily, and then they came back, and I actually when ECU scored that last touchdown, I turned off the game. I was so mad when they got the ball. Actually, it was when they got the ball back, and all they had to do was run out the clock. I turned off the game. And then I was like, well, I haven't seen the final score yet, so let me flip it back on. And then I saw everybody jumping around, and I was like, what happened? And they played the replay, and then it was Perriman catching the ball, and I jumped up, and I had to bite my tongue because I wanted to scream so loud, but I couldn't wake up my kids. So it was one of the most frustrating, but also glorious games to see.
Well, yeah, and I bet you haven't turned off a UCF game before it was over since then.
Correct.
Yeah. I haven't either because I didn't turn it off, but my wife was like, I've had enough of this. We're going to lose. I'm going upstairs. She went to bed. And I remember screaming at the top, absolutely bloody murder, top of my lungs, and probably not only woke her up, but woke a couple other people up in the neighborhood as well, because I think that game went pretty late.
It did.
And yeah, it was a really big deal. I will never, ever forget that. The thing that I probably loved the most from that was the smile on George O'Leary's face. Because you didn't see him smile very often, but he was actually like laughing, and you hardly ever saw that.
Well, I don't know if you've heard this story, but he actually didn't know whether he caught the ball.
Yeah.
So someone came up and told him he caught the ball, and then he got this big smile on his face because he couldn't tell if he caught it because he couldn't see from the sideline where he was at.
Yeah. That will be that picture, though. And I think it's a GIF or something that somebody, or GIF or GIF, however you say it, that's online now, that I've seen posted, or a picture of that, or whatever, a still of that, or whatever I've seen posted a million times. But that image of him smiling like that after that is literally burned in my head forever. It's just a wonderful memory of, a UCF game. So anyway, how did we get off on this? I don't even remember what we were talking about.
ECU and a record,
and the records
that
and stuff like that.
We tied that up.
Yeah. And then the Gus emotion in the locker room. Yeah. So here's what Gus has to say on Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene, this people have to remember. I saw some people. I think there was a post in the dungeon, especially, that some guy was just ripping on Mikey Keene. And, this was his second game in college. First home game. And a home game is a lot different than a road game. Home game really comes with more pressure. I think Gus talks about it right here.
We got to be real. I mean, he's young. He was in high school last year, and that was his first home start. He's still learning, and there's going to be some growing pains, but he's a really good quarterback. And I think sometimes you just got to stick with people and let him grow. And he's going to be a big-time quarterback before it's all said and done. But I'm just proud of, a lot of quarterbacks, they wouldn't have what it took to lead them down to win the game. Matter of fact, a lot of old quarterbacks couldn't do that. So real proud of him. There's going to be some growing pains. He's the toughest on him, more than the coach, and he's a great competitor.
All right, well, there you have it. Another thing, I love to hear Gus talk. I love that accent that he has, and it's like he's an old school football coach, and I love it personally. I love to listen to him, especially when he tells stories or just gets off kind of off the script in a way. You know what I'm saying? Instead of coach talk, he talks a lot of real compared to what a lot of other coaches, especially the last guy that we had, didn't show much personality at all. And Gus definitely has quite a bit, and I just love to hear him talk. So.
Yeah. Every time I hear him talk, I think Waffle House. So whenever he's at the Waffle House, we're winning. So I'm hoping he keeps the Waffle House fresh on my mind. But outside of that, no, you're right. He's an interesting mix because he has that Southern draw, but he has a unique way of putting things in perspective and saying things in a way that makes sense. So you're never, this isn't some of the SEC coaches who can barely string a few words together. He's articulate. He has good messaging. He understands marketing and branding. And at the same time, he's got that disarming Southern drawl. So I agree with you 100%.
You know what? Yeah, I may be going to Waffle House. Yeah, I may be. Closest one, what is it, a mile down the road?
Exactly.
That was perfect.
Yeah. I saved that clip for a reason, just because the guy is endearing, in my opinion. I love the guy. So I may get frustrated sometimes with what he does on the field, but I believe that one of the things that we have to remember is that he has a method. And he may do some crazy stuff, and I love that he does crazy stuff. I love that he pulls, plays out that you wouldn't expect, because that's what football coaching. When you're wanting to win games that you may not have a chance to otherwise, that's how you do it. You do crazy stuff sometimes. Heck, he went for it, on fourth down every. Three games in when we didn't even kick a field goal. Like, we went for it on fourth down every time. Who does that? Nobody does that anymore. So I'm excited to have him here. And I know that, like I said, people get down on him, but I think in the end, he'll go down in the history of UCF as being a very beloved coach, I believe. That's my prediction in the future. We shall see, though. You never know, I guess. One of the other things that was cool, especially since this is a Tuesday edition of the show, we don't do this very often, so I don't get a lot of the Monday audio to play on the show. This week I have some. So here's how Gus opened up on Monday in his press conference that he does in the afternoon on Monday.
Playing the number 3 team in the country. They've got a 23-game home winning streak. You look at them defensively. They're very good against the run, very good against the pass. I think they're second in the country in scoring defense. Very impressive on the run fits. They challenge you. They play a lot of man. They got some real guys that can cover. They got a real defense. Offensively, 9th in scoring offense. The quarterback's been playing a long time. Very impressed with the way he manages the game. Got a good run game, a good pass game. They're really a complete team when you look at them. So it'll be a big challenge for us. I know we're excited to go there and play and be a big challenge.
Okay, so it's going to be a big challenge. He said there multiple times. Besides playing Cincinnati, though, we'll get to a little bit more of that here in a minute. But Tatum Bethune, defensive player, linebacker, was the AAC Defensive Player of the Week, which was pretty cool. And here's what Tatum Bethune had to say after really just learning that.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. I just found out like 5 minutes ago. So my first time ever making that, so it's just exciting to feel that way, just motivation.
I think he was a little bit shocked, personally, the way it sounded to me there. What do you think, Roger?
I think so, too. I mean, I know he knows that he had a good game, but when you're in the middle of a game, you're not keeping track of stats, right? I know when I played and I was on the field, I was worried about reading the offense and understanding what my responsibility was for the next play and my keys and all of that other stuff. So when you're in that adrenaline rush and you're doing all those things, nobody's looking at the stats unless it's a big milestone like Drew Brees and then subsequently Tom Brady breaking some offensive passing records or touchdown records or anything else, nobody's really thinking about that. So I agree with you. I tend to think he is probably a little shocked because I'm sure he didn't even know that he had 17 tackles in the game.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that he got the award this week, to be honest with you, because there were some pretty good defensive, players of the week, and it's nice that Tatum Bethune finally gets one of those. This is a guy that missed the Navy game because of a concussion, and was back finally. Suffered that in the Louisville game, and we missed that guy a lot, especially during the Navy game, although Bryson Armstrong filled in pretty good for him, I believe, with the 20 tackles that he had in that game. So, talking about, this was an interesting question here that somebody asked Matt Lee to talk about Mikey Keene a little bit. Matt Lee, obviously our center, if you don't know, and he has been out a couple games, came back in this game as well. And played very well also, but here he is talking about Mikey Keene and some of the differences, I believe, is what this clip is between Dylan and Mikey Keene.
Mikey's done a great job of recognizing protections and fronts and, when he has to get it right. And we're just working together. I'm doing everything I can to help him out and give him the easiest time or make his job as easy as I can make it. And, but, whenever he's back there and he's directing protections, we got full trust in him and know that he's doing it right. And, I'm with Mikey. Mikey stepped in right away and, had a lot of poise and took command of the offense well and knows what he's doing. Mentally is in it perfectly. And there was never any drop-off in the sense of, communication or just having that guy, the quarterback and that voice back there. He did a great job of just stepping in and, taking it on.
All right. Well, we haven't heard a ton from Matt Lee, so I think it's great that he finally got up there and was able to talk as well. So good to have him back. He is, the quarterback of that offensive line. They call it the center because the center has a lot of responsibilities there. He also talked earlier, and I didn't pull this clip, but he did talk about the game that Cole Schneider played in at the center position. And Cole Schneider had never played center before. Obviously, they practiced it a little bit the week before because they knew that they needed something a little bit different there. Normally plays guard, and Matt Lee said that he was very proud of the way that Cole played the center position. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. That's a difficult position. They definitely have to work, in tandem with the quarterback, and they both communicate a lot. And it's good to hear, very good to hear, that there's not a lot of a fall off as far as communication and differences with Mikey Keene being back there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the center position is so tough because they are the brains of the offensive line. They are looking for calls. They're pointing out things on the defense to both the offensive line and the quarterback. They're the ones who control shifts and all of these other things. So there's a lot going on, just like a quarterback is making adjustments and checks. The center's doing the same thing. He's calling out where blitzes are coming from. And that takes a lot of mental energy in a very short period of time to recognize all that, call that out. Because remember, you only have seconds between the time that a ball is placed and the time that it's snapped. And you're having to do all of those things and remember your blocking schemes. For someone who hasn't played that position for the season, it's very tough for them to come in and insert themselves there, make sure they have the right blocking, make sure their technique is right, because the center's technique is completely different than a right guard and et cetera, right? So being able to do those things is a huge accomplishment. Now, that being said, I don't think any center who always has a really close relationship with their quarterback is ever going to say, yeah, we have no confidence in him at all.
Well,
But
obviously not, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the point.
No, I know. But my point is, it's good to hear some of the things that they're thinking. And as far as him being able to speak, Gus has this rule where there's only certain people that can speak and a limited number of people that can speak during the week. So it is good to hear from him because he's a great player and he's done really well for us.
Yeah. He's a big part of it, a huge part of it, and he was definitely missed in the games that he was not out there. You could definitely tell a difference when he wasn't out there personally. Also, they asked him, Matt Lee, about the prep for Cincinnati, and was it any different this week than any other week? And here's what he had to say.
We're going to prepare the same way we would prepare for any other team. Take it day by day and attack preparation and practice and meetings and all that comes with that on a daily basis. And, I know our coaches will put us in the best position with the plan to go and execute and go out there and, try to get a win. They're a good team, man. They just, across the board, they got good players on their defensive front, their front seven, and really their defense as a whole. They execute well. They know their assignments, and they got good players up front. So, go out there and we're going to try to execute. And like I said, during this week, prepare like we would any other week and go out there and do the same.
All right. Well, that gives me a vote of confidence right there. Just with that mentality is important, I believe. Not to look at that number 3, not to look at where you're playing, just to prepare like you would prepare for any other team. I think that's extremely important. And I know that my coaches were always like that in college, and it made a big difference to us.
Yeah, I know that, it can be intimidating. I mean, listen, these guys are young men that are playing on a big stage, and anytime you do that, I mean, as a college football player, you live for those moments, but you're also nervous. Anybody who says they're not nervous going into a game or leading up to a game like that is not telling you the truth. I think people look forward to it, but having the right mentality and mindset and making sure that you understand that they're just human beings on the other side of the field and you trust your coaches that they're going to put you in the best position to win, then you just focus on what you need to execute play by play, because each play is going to be slightly different. It's going to have nuance in it. And as long as you're focusing on that and not getting caught up in the moment, you're going to have the best performance that you can.
Alrighty. Yep, absolutely true. I was nervous before every game. I didn't care who we were playing. I was still just as nervous every time, personally. Just for my own safety and the safety of my buddies around me, I think was what I was the most nervous about. I was always afraid of getting hurt. That was just one of the things that was always on my mind, and I was always nervous. I couldn't eat before games. Just because I would probably puke it up if I did. And I didn't want to be doing that on national television. I did something really crazy one time on national television. I'm sure you can find it out there if you really tried. I got hit so hard. Well, I hit somebody so hard, and they hit me back just as hard. And I had a concussion after this thing, but I walked to the wrong huddle. Completely walked to the wrong huddle. It was against Texas, I believe. And I looked around and I'm like, wait a second. I don't recognize any of these guys. And they're like, come here, It was pretty funny. Yeah. So that was really pretty dumb, but I had a concussion. So that's my excuse for doing that. I've seen it happen a couple other times, and I always I feel so bad for that guy because I know how weird I felt about it. But anyway, yeah. So I guess that does it for the clips. I don't have any more clips. Is there anything that you wanted to... I'm sure this is a dumb question because I know you have a lot of stuff to add probably on the ECU game. What would you like to talk about as far as that goes still?
Well, I know, we usually run through some stats and things that I take note of, and it's good to compare that. One good thing, there was 41,000 folks in attendance, so it was a pretty good turnout for the game.
And a lot of people stayed too, which I was really happy. I was up at the top, and I love to watch from up there. I was on the cabana side and up there where that bar is at the very, very top of the stadium. I love to look down and be able to see kind of the field from the top. Just one of my favorite spots to watch. And I can also see the entire stadium pretty much. So I kind of was looking around as we headed into the fourth quarter. I'm like, okay, I saw some people starting to leave because we were down a little bit, and I know that people will scoot out of there early if we're down and they think we're going to lose. In fact, a buddy of mine that was sitting on the other side of the stadium texted me, hey, we're leaving. It was like a couple minutes into the fourth quarter, and he's like, all right, we're leaving, because I was trying to get him to come to the tailgate and say hi afterwards. And I was like, okay, man, I wouldn't leave I texted him back. I said, I wouldn't leave a UCF game when we're only down by a little bit. It's a bad idea. And he left, and what did we do? We came back in the end and scored and won the game. But, everybody stayed pretty well. Student section stayed pretty well, more than usual, actually. I was pretty happy about that. But a lot of people stuck that out, and I think people are starting to learn, after all these years of the Cardiac Nights, that you have to kind of stick around.
Well, not only that, but it was a beautiful night, and there was no reason to leave. I mean, there was no rain delay, there was no crazy storming, there was nothing. So it was pretty cool. The sun actually, Andrew and I both sit in the cabana area. It was blocked out by a cloud up into the point that it got behind the tower, so we didn't have direct sunlight.
That cloud, yes, I am fully aware of that cloud, and that cloud was awesome. God put that cloud there just for us, because it was a godsend. Trust me,
literally. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a great game. The defense had a really good game. They held a 200-yard rusher to 65 yards. Johnny Richardson, he had a great, he had a even better game than he had last week. He averaged over 6 yards a carry. My biggest thing about Johnny Richardson that I hope that he can improve on is his pass blocking. Other than that, he had a really, really, really good game. Just
You're
in
not
general,
going to see a little guy like that pass block very well. Period.
Yeah, I know. A lot of times they'll cut block or whatever.
I mean, he's one of the smallest guys on the field in any college football game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Totally one of the smallest guys.
So, the other part about it for defensively, this was a season low for points scored for ECU. They scored 52 last week, so this was big. We already talked about Tatum Bethune. Devod Wilson, I'm starting to question him a little bit. He seems to, the last few games, he's just been out of position on a lot of different plays. I know he's not in his natural position, but I would expect with the talent that he has and his experience that he'd be, he'd be playing a little bit better than what he is. I was really hoping to hang our hat on him to be that solid player back there, not Mike Hughes or not, Richie Grant, but someone we could hang our hat on to be an anchor for that defense. And I just haven't seen it out of him.
Yeah, I don't think that he's quite who we thought he was, personally. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's injured or something and just has to be out there playing and isn't playing at 100%. But he's just not what we expected whatsoever, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree there. Mark Anthony Richards came in on that last run. That was exciting to see him play. That's the type of physical back that he can be and the difference maker that he can be. He just ran right through there, didn't have any problems shedding tacklers because of his size. I just hope, he starts to get his game shape back, because I really think that he could be a dangerous option for us.
I think that you'll probably see him a lot more after that situation, because that showed that he's pretty healthy. To be able to do that in that fourth quarter like that he did the other night. So,
right.
In my opinion, and just my opinion, I guess. I kind of lost what I was saying there.
In my esteemed opinion.
In my opinion, I just think that you're going to see him a lot more. I think he's back. And I honestly, when he first came here and we were talking about who was going to be the starting running back, in my opinion, at that time, even though I really loved Bowser, it was not supposed to be Bowser. It was going to probably be him if he was healthy. He just wasn't healthy when he got here. I always thought that he would be the starter, personally.
Yeah, I did as well, and I was hoping because he's very talented. He's got good hands, and he's got speed. So
he's also only a sophomore, so he's going to be around a few years.
Yeah, and he plays. He's the type of back that Gus loves to play. So, I expect a lot out of him. Gus brought him here from Auburn, and he's got a lot of the tools. Now, if he can just get in game shape, I think he'll be good to go.
I would expect to see a lot of him this week. Just my opinion.
I hope so. At least towards the end of the season, I expect his carries to go up quite a bit. With the defensive line that Cincinnati has, I would expect him, if Bowser is not back, that we see a heavy dose of him as well. I would agree with that. Big Cat still being disruptive. One of the things that I noticed is yet again, the opposing offenses are changing plays depending on where he's lining up to kind of keep away from him. So even though his stats may not be crazy, I believe he did get a sack this week. He's still impacting the game, which is good because if you can do that and you have one player who can impact an entire play, that means you can take the other side of the field and other players and use that to stop the change. So
yeah, I agree with you there. He's impacting way more than people, with the untrained eye know. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what's going on out there and you're just, wow, he doesn't get his hands on the quarterback very often. Wow, he is really impacting the game much more than people realize. Just by, being that much of a focus for offenses to play away from him. That's a huge impact.
And then, just an observation, our punter Osteen is still not consistently hitting punts. I don't know what's going on with him this year, but he's boom or bust. His average, I think, was something like 42 yards. But there's been a ton of, missed opportunities or short kicks or just, kicking out of bounds or whatever. So, that hurt us last week as well. So I'm hoping he can pick it up and be more consistent. Amari Johnson and Ryan O'Keefe both had really, really good games. Was excited about that. Overall, this was a pretty evenly matched game as the score would indicate, right? Time of possession, ECU won that 33 minutes versus 27 for us. Third down percentage, we were 5 of 15 or 30%, which is actually, I know that sounds terrible, but it's actually better than what we have been. And ECU had 4 for 14 for 28%. We had 359 yards that we gained versus ECU, which had 360 yards. We had 194 passing and 165 rushing. The yards per pass were way down. So Mikey Keene, they were definitely keeping it conservative for him. They were down to 5.5 yards per pass and 5.3 yards per reception, which is a little bit up, but it's still it's not where we expect it to be. We're used to these big offenses that are averaging 10 to 12. But again, that's a product of play calling. Mikey was 25 of 35, 65% completion percentage, which is up 6%. But again, short passes. Johnny Richardson led the way in rushing at 16 carries for 104 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, which is exciting. And then, in the short period of time that Mark Anthony Richards was in, he gained 58 yards. So 6 carries for 58 yards and 9.7 yards per catch.
Per carry.
Or per carry, excuse me. Ryan O'Keefe, 10 for 73. Amari Johnson, 6 for 33. Johnny Richardson, 2 for 51. Obviously, that big play that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Ryan O'Keefe was targeted 13 times, and the next closest guy, Amari Johnson, was only targeted 6 times, by the way. So Coach has talked a lot about wanting to get the ball in Ryan O'Keefe's hands. So I believe that you'll see a lot of him this week. I think that'll be a huge thing, especially with Jay Flash still being out. Doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon either, personally.
No, I mean, we've obviously been devastated by the injury bug. But Amari Johnson, yeah, he caught all 6 of his passes. Ryan O'Keefe, what makes him dangerous is not necessarily his ability as a receiver, but what he can do after he catches the ball. I mean, that's on display, every time we do a sweep or any type of that trick plays that we've seen. Ryan O'Keefe's the guy with the ball 9 times out of 10, and he can make people miss, and he's got speed. So, you get the ball in your playmaker's hands, and you let him go make plays. Another couple of things, we had 2 fumble recoveries, again, talking about the defense. Quadric Bullard had one, and a Seliskar, 1 interception by JJP, Jean Baptiste. So that was exciting to see. So turnovers, we did a great job. We had 4 sacks, which is the most that we've seen all season and something we've been screaming about, which was really exciting. And lots of tackles for a loss. We also had 3 passes defended, which we haven't seen a lot of either. So, all around a great day for the defense. We know that the offense was playing more conservatively, and it'll be interesting to see if we can carry the momentum for the defense into the big showdown with Cincinnati.
Yeah, definitely the best, in my opinion, the best defensive effort all year long, really, if you look at it as a whole. So, and Coach agreed with that as well in his press conference, did say that. So he thought that they played a full game and played to their highest potential, and he commended special teams playing a lot better as well. So Orbowski had a pretty good game. He did, kicking field goals and stuff like that. He hasn't, I don't think he's missed one yet. So hopefully he gets that one back against Cincinnati this next week that he missed last year and lost the game for us. So I think that will be a big deal for him to hit some field goals in this next game.
I mean, listen, he seems to be playing better. I mean, he hasn't had very many opportunities, but he seems to be playing better, and he's hit every one that he's needed to. So, extra points he's hit, and the field goal opportunity that he hit. So hopefully we keep that going, because that was always a concern as well on that special teams unit.
Yeah, I think that I don't remember how many they kicked in at Navy, but he was 3 for 3 this week. So, or no, it was 2 for 2 this week, I guess. Is that right? 2 for 2, yeah. 3 for 3 for the other guy, for the ECU kicker. But 2 for 2 this week, so that's good for sure. That's something we've all kind of worried about as far as field goals go. He kicked the one that was 35 in the second quarter, and in the fourth quarter, a 40-yarder. So that may have been one of his longest of the season as well. So doing a good job, not kicking balls out of bounds. That was one of the things that we were all worried about. We still have not seen our transfer kicker, who is still injured. I can't wait to see that guy, actually. I hope we don't see him a lot, but I can't wait to see Riker Casey come out and kick for us at some point this season if he gets healthy. So, anything else about the ECU game?
No, just good to get a win, and glad I was able to be there. The lower cabana ran out of beer fairly quickly, so that was a little bit of a scandal. But outside of that, it was a great game. I really thoroughly enjoyed being there, and it was good to see a hard-fought game by this team.
They ran out of beer? I did not hear about that.
Yeah, the first floor ran out of beer. So by the second quarter.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, maybe they didn't think as many people would be there or something. I don't know. Who knows?
No, I don't know, but beer sales are important, especially when you're in the cabana. So UCF, be looking out, increase your beer.
Well, I'm sure those are vendors that are doing that anyway. That's not them, but okay, sure. Okay, so let's take a break here, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about the Cincinnati game. What do you think of that?
Sounds great.
Okay, here we go. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, well, we've talked about it all show so far. UCF plays Cincinnati, number 3, Cincinnati at noon on ABC this week in front of a lot of eyes. I guess ABC has a really good triple header of games this week, and we're starting that out. So that's pretty exciting. Hopefully we can go in there and make the upset. I know a lot of people are not really looking for us to do that, but I think some way it's going to happen. Something weird is going to happen, and we're going to win this game, in my opinion. So we'll find out a little bit more about that later on when we do our score predictions. But Roger, what are you concerned with going into this besides the obvious?
Well, broken record here. The same thing I've been saying for 3 weeks, which is Desmond Ridder and the edge. I think for us, the biggest thing, the biggest thing for this game is Desmond Ridder and the offense have been averaging 40 points a game, right? When you have a defense like they do, and you're averaging 40 points a game against some pretty good teams, that's a pretty hard combination to beat. So for me, what I'm most concerned with is limiting turnovers on our side. So hopefully winning the turnover battle. Number 2, our defense shows up and we can stop them on third down, because again, they're a short yardage team and they will pound the rock. So they can do that by maintaining the edge. And then number 3, I'm really worried that our wide receivers, they have a really good defensive backfield. I'm worried our wide receivers are not going to be able to create separation. So I'm hoping that our running game steps up, and we have someone back there that's a bigger back that can withstand the punishment, because they have a pretty stout defensive line, all 300-plus pounders. So they're not going to. It's not going to be easy to run on them. So if we limit turnovers and win the turnover margin, we can keep the defense. Our defense plays well and gets them out on 3rd and out, 3 and outs. And limits the edge. I think that will give us an advantage. And if we can run the ball and thereby control more of the time of possession, I think we can keep this game close and win.
Okay. Well, I'm most worried about their defense in general. They only allow 12.2 points per game. 12.2. Their offense scores 41. We score 36.8 normally. This was our lowest scoring game in a long time, I believe, this last week. But they only give up 12.2. That is insane, and I think that has more to do with how good they are than their offense. They only allow 173.4 yards rushing, and only 177 for passing allowed. So they allow 294.4 yards a game, and we allow 365.8. So I think that's the huge difference, especially their 177.8 for passing yards allowed per game to our 221 points or yards allowed on defense. So that's what worries me the most. Their defense is going to be extremely stout, and it has been, for a number of years. That's what their strength has been, even more than their offense, in my opinion. Obviously, Desmond Ridder is definitely somebody to, watch out for, and he's having a heck of a year. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes back there, plays very smart. But the defense, I think, is going to be the key to the game. We're going to have to score against their defense, period. We're going to have to score a lot, and we're going to have to do something that other teams have not been able to do against them. And I think that's the key to the game, to be honest with you, is somehow neutralizing their defense a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the way that what you're going to see personally is I don't think we have much chance of doing that with the defensive backs that they have with our wide receivers. So I think they're going to focus on, getting short, quick passes that they can get for short yardage gains. That will also help Mikey get in a rhythm. I think that, it's also going to be important that our running game gets established. And not only that, I think you're going to see some trick plays. I expect some sweeps. I expect some trick plays. I expect the unexpected from Gus in this game, because if we're going to focus on, and which I believe we're going to do, that short yardage passing game and the running game, that means they can stack the box. And when we become one-dimensional, it's going to be really, really hard to break that open. So in my mind, I think our receivers are going to have their hands full. I think that's probably what Gus is going to try to do. And so we've got to find ways to keep them off balance and stretch the field so that they can't focus their defensive effort in the box.
Okay. Yeah, Jerome Ford, their running back, is on 82 attempts, has 520 yards. He's averaging 6.3, has 8 touchdowns so far. Desmond Ridder is next when it comes to rushing for the Bearcats. 33 attempts for 104 yards, averaging 3.2. 26 being his longest, and he has 3 rushing touchdowns. So nothing crazy there as far as a running quarterback. I mean, he's not nearly as much of a runner as some of the other quarterbacks that we've already faced this season, especially the guy from Louisville. But Jerome Ford has been there for quite a while, and we know what he can do as a running back for sure. So we'll really have to work on stopping the run against these guys, which will be, I think fairly difficult. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, at the end of the day, another challenge we face is injuries because we have our 2 starting defensive tackles out. One of them was a transfer, and then, Davis went out this last week, and he's not coming back for the season. So that was probably the worst game for him to go out on. I mean, there's no good game that a player can go out on and hurt themselves.
And he's one of our best football players, period.
Yeah, you heard that last week? Gus even said that last week.
Yeah, and I believe that as well. I mean, he said that about Matt Lee as well the week before. But I believe that he is one of the best football players that's out there. So we definitely have a hole there in the middle. But we didn't play that horribly bad after he was gone either in this last game, after he, went out. And Gus said that as well. So we'll have to see. They've got to move some guys around. They've got to find somebody to put there. Maybe do something a little bit different with linebackers, to back those guys up. Maybe a little bit of a different scheme or something to stop the run, because that's a big deal there. So
yeah, they're going to have a spy, number 1 on Ritter. That absolutely has to happen. It'll be interesting to see, because a lot of this year, if you watch the defenses we're playing more guys up on the line, and we'll have two linebackers that will be offset to cover the opposite side of the field. And we've really been leaning on getting pressure. And it'll be interesting to see whether the threat of Ritter running how T. Will deals with that. Like how does he deal with that threat? You can't leave him one-on-one with a defender out there. You can't. It doesn't matter who they are.
I mean, he can make plays with his feet, but I don't think that's the best thing that he does, though. So I don't think you concentrate like more than you concentrate against him killing you with the pass, with him killing you with the feet. He's only run 33 times this season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but when he runs 9 or 10 yards every single time, and that's
he's
when
averaging
you're talking about
3 point something a carry. So I mean, in my opinion, you don't. I mean, he's averaging like 3.9 a carry. I don't think that's the big issue, personally.
Well,
let me make sure of that. I believe that he's averaging like 3 a carry. 3.8. 3.2. 3.2 a carry. He's
then his averages are down from last year. So, but at
last
the end
year
of the day,
his average was 6.0. 2019 was 4.5, and 2018 was 3.8. So he's not running nearly as much. I mean, obviously it hasn't been as many games, but you've seen that drop off. I mean, he's becoming more of a pocket passer. Obviously, you don't want to forget about him completely, but I don't think that's the number one thing that you have to concentrate on is him running. He's not nearly as much of a runner as other quarterbacks have been.
Well, it'll be interesting to see for sure, because he does know how to he does know how to read a defense, and when something's not there, he'll definitely pull the ball in and make that third down. Again, the key to this game is not to let Cincinnati eat up time of possession by making third downs. That's what they did against us last year. They're very, very good at it because they're efficient in small yardage or low yardage situations. So at the end of the day, what it boils down to, and if we can stop third down conversions, whether he's running the ball or throwing the ball, and that way we get more opportunities to be able to score against a really, really good defense. That's what's going to win us the game, or we get turnovers.
Yeah. It's true. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that obviously they've got to do something a little bit different with Mikey Keene. They've got to let him throw the ball a little bit more. He's just going to have to in this game. It's it is what it is, I guess. He's not doing bad though. If you look at the stats so far for him, he has only played in 2 games, and compared to what Dylan was doing, he's not that far off, to be honest with you, in the comparison. So his quarterback rating right now 124.7, and Dylan was 158.9 in the games that he played.
Yeah, big difference there.
Well, it's a 30-point difference, but it could be a lot bigger than that. You know, he just hasn't had the attempts. Dylan had 102 attempts. He's had 68 attempts. So Dylan had 814 yards. Mikey Keene in 2 games has 427 yards.
Right. Compared
to the 4 games that Dylan played in. So his completion rate is a little bit lower, 68.6 for Dylan. Mikey Keene is 63.2. Average for Dylan was 8. Even Mikey Keene 6.3. Mikey Keene actually has thrown the longest pass of the season so far at 49 yards compared to Dylan Gabriel's 47. Dylan scored 9 touchdowns. Mikey Keene has thrown 3 and 2 interceptions. So, been sacked twice. So, I mean, this should be a game where Mikey Keene feels a little bit more comfortable. He's played on the road before. He's played at home now. Now he just needs to do it on the biggest stage of them all this year so far. And he's just going to have to do it. So I'm nervous about it for sure. I think somehow, though, we're going to come out ahead in this thing. I really do. Johnny Richardson, though, if you look at his stats compared to Bowser's, he's had 42 attempts, 297 yards so far. Isaiah Bowser, 51 attempts, 268 yards. Johnny Richardson, actually, his average is way higher, 7.1 compared to 5.3 for Bowser, which is interesting. 5 TDs compared to 1, though, is a big deal. So that's interesting. Isaiah Bowser,
interesting. I didn't look at that stat. I'm glad that you brought that up. Johnny's definitely quick. I think
this might not be right, though. These stats may not be right, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, no, I guess it does. Bowser didn't have that great of a game against Bethune-Cookman. He didn't run nearly as much, but he had what did he have against? Okay, hold on here. I want to look at this real quick for Bowser. He had against I got to find. He averaged a lot against in the very first game. Yeah, he had 172. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. 172, then he dropped down to 59 against BCU and 37 because he went out so early in that game against Louisville. So okay, so that's why it does make sense. I thought he had more rushes than that.
No, Bowser came out. I don't remember exactly when, but he came out fairly early in the BCU game.
Yeah. Okay. I thought he ran for a little bit more in that game. Yeah. Well, I mean, Johnny Richardson is definitely quick and can get out there and make things happen for sure. I don't think you play ball control with a guy like Johnny Richardson, though.
I agree.
So hopefully Mike Anthony Richards will be able to get out there, and maybe Trillion Coles as well, and see what happens.
Yeah, the last 2 games, Trillian hasn't played as well. I think he averaged like 1 point something per carry this last game, and very low before that.
Yeah, he wasn't out
Navy
there
game.
a ton, though, in this last game.
That's true.
He only had 3 carries for 5 yards.
Yeah.
Averaged 1.7. In the Navy game, he had 7 carries, 22 yards, 3.1. Against Louisville, he had 8 carries, had 51 yards, averaged 6.4. Against BCU, which was the first game that he played in, Bethune-Cookman, he had 11 carries, 78 yards, and he was making 7.1 in that game. So, oh boy.
Yeah. Oh boy's right.
Yeah. What else do you want to talk about as far as things about the Cincinnati game?
I think we've covered it pretty well. I mean, it's going to be a big game. I'm going to be watching it, and I'm going to be hoping for the best. So that's all I can say about that. Good luck to the guys. If things, hopefully this is the year that the ball doesn't bounce Cincy's way, as it seems to or has been the last few times that we've played them. And hopefully we're the beneficiary of that. So we'll see.
Well, what's our record against them recently? I mean, I don't think it's the last few times that we've played them. I don't think they've beat us.
We lost the last 2, I believe it's 2 games that we played them.
Really?
Last year, that was the field goal mishap. The year before that, and I think there was a fumble or something that happened. And then I think we won the previous 2 games.
I don't think that I've gotten the notes yet from UCF for this game yet. I don't think that they're out, which is a bummer. I can look here real quick, though. If you want to cover something else real quick while I look, I can definitely look.
Other than that, as far as the Cincinnati game is concerned, it's one of those things that's going to be an experience. Anybody who's going there, the stadium itself is a pretty cool experience. It's actually the oldest stadium in D1 college football. It was recently renovated. It's a small stadium. There's only 33,000. It should be a pretty intimate setting, but it's a pretty cool setup considering the age and how much history has gone down there. So I hope there's lots of UCF fans that are going. It's actually earlier in the season than what it's been in the past, this game. So that means we won't be freezing our tuchuses off in Ohio. So I'm excited for those folks that are going.
All righty. Yeah. Is that correct? Is it the oldest? I thought it was like the second oldest or something.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the oldest.
I think that... I don't know. Yeah, it's one of the oldest for sure. I don't know if it's the oldest. I don't know about that. I think that for some reason I thought that Georgia Tech's stadium was the oldest or something like that. I don't know. I think Bobby Dodd Stadium is the oldest for some reason like that. I think that's what I understand. I don't know. But anyway, it is one of the oldest. I've never been there before, and I'd love to go there and see a game at some point for sure. Yeah.
Well, right now, the series is 3-3 in the most recent. So from 2016 to 2020, Cincinnati has taken the 2 most recent games, and we took the 3 prior to that. So from 2016 to 2018, we won those 3 games. They won 2019 and 2020.
Oh, okay. All right. Nippert Stadium is the 3rd oldest, by the way.
Oh, is it 3rd? Okay.
3rd, yes. Bobby Dodd Stadium for Georgia Tech, and then Davis Wade Stadium at Scott Field for Mississippi State is older.
Well, there you go. I stand corrected.
1913 for Bobby Dodd Stadium, 1914 for Mississippi State Stadium, and 1915 for Nippert Stadium at Cincinnati. What's the next one? Do you know?
No clue on that one.
Mississippi. Ole Miss, their stadium is 1915. Camp Randall Stadium in Wisconsin, 1917. Boone Pickens Stadium, Oklahoma State, which we will be traveling to one of these years, 1920. Washington Husky Stadium, which they've done a lot to that one, so it doesn't seem like it's that old, as 1920. And then Kansas, 1921. So
that's crazy.
Yep.
The UCF Stadium would not last that long as it's currently constructed.
Well, I don't think a lot of them would anymore that were constructed at that point. So.
Well, yeah, and then, you know, a lot of these older stadiums, what they did was they dug out holes in the ground and they put the bleachers along that section, and then they built up another section above it. So, you know, Duke Stadium is like that. North Carolina Stadium's like that. A lot of the older ones were built that way. So you aren't building two levels of stadium. You're really only building one. So if you look at the older stadiums, that's the way that they were constructed. And it makes it a little bit cheaper and easier, and definitely more durable if you've got a hole in the ground versus trying to build something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Kansas's stadium is right on top of the ground, not in a hole. Which is interesting for that time period as well. So, but I know Nippert is definitely at Cincinnati built down into the ground a little bit there. So, and Georgia Tech Stadium is the same way, like that. So, alrighty. Well, yeah, I don't know what else we do here except I guess we need to do our Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Let's do that real quick, and then we'll come back after that and do news and notes, and that'll be about it.
Sounds great.
Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, you know what would be perfect for this game against, it's a noon game, so lunch would be a really good thing right about the time of the game, having something to nibble on. You know what would be really good for the Cincinnati game? Chicken wings.
Yeah.
And you know where you can get chicken wings now?
The Tijuana Flats?
Tijuana Flats has chicken wings. You are absolutely right. Believe it or not. I know, it's a little weird. It's different for a Mexican place where you're used to getting fresh Mexican food to get chicken wings, but they have a couple different flavors of chicken wings now, and all those hot sauces. You know all those hot sauces they have out there? Well, you can dip those chicken wings in any of those hot sauces you want. You can get them with a couple of different sauces. I think they have... there's a garlic parmesan or something like that, and a couple other flavors of hot wings. So you can get chicken wings, you can get them takeout, or you can probably get them delivered through DoorDash or one of those things, or you can go to Tijuana Flats and eat real quick before the game, or have your buddy pick them up on the way to your house or whatever, wherever you're watching the game. Anyway, Tijuana Flats has wings, and they're perfect for UCF football games. All right. We have made this Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week section our pick section in the last few shows, anyway. I guess all of them maybe this season we've done that. I don't know. Who knows? I'm confused. I'm getting tired. It's Tuesday. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make our picks. I'm going to let Roger go first. We did this on the radio show as well, so you probably have heard this. I don't think it's going to change unless you've had some kind of revelation that you would think that something was changed since then, but I'm going to let you go ahead and make your pick.
I'm going to stick with my story, as painful as it is. Unfortunately, UCF fans, this will be the first time that I have picked against our Knights. And realistically speaking, I do think that it will be 38-28 Cincinnati. I don't think it'll be a 20-point spread as has been, as the bookies have been saying.
It's actually just moved. I just looked at it again, and it's moved again 21.
What's it now?
Now we're a 21-point underdog. The over-under is 57.5.
I don't think we're a 3-touchdown dog. That's just me personally. I think where that's coming from is their defense is rated so well. But I don't think we're a three touchdown dog. So I'm going to say we keep it within 10 points. But unfortunately, I do think ultimately we may be looking at a loss here.
All right. Well, I'm too much of a homer to do that. There's no way I'm ever going to say on this show that UCF is not going to win. I'm always picking UCF. I will never, ever not pick UCF to win. I'm that much of a homer. I'm going to try to predict the score, though, more than anything else. I think we win the game. I think we win the game by a field goal. Yes, the same way that we didn't win the game last year. It was a 3-point game, I think. Was it 3 points last year? Roger, check it out real quick.
It was a 3-point game.
Okay.
We missed it. Yeah, because we would have kicked a field goal to tie it.
What was the score?
Ooh, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can find out for you.
You got to be able to figure that out. I'm just messing with you. Because if I knew, I could figure it out really quick, too. Let's see.
33-36.
All right, 33-36. It was a 3-point game. Oh,
correct.
Boy. All right. Otis Anderson in that game had 51 yards, by the way. 51 yards rushing. Dylan Gabriel had 243 yards passing. Anyway, I'm going to say 43-40. I think we kick the game-winning field goal, and Orbowski does it to redeem himself from last year. I think somehow the last second we kick a field goal and win the game. And the Cincinnati fans are upset and crying, and all of them are doing the surrender cobra little move. There's going to be girls.
Just like Louisville a few years ago.
Little girls in the stands. The camera will pan, and there'll be, I don't know, girls in the stands with tears. I think that's how it's going to turn out. So, yeah, 43-40 UCF. I think somehow we're going to do it. I don't know how. I don't know if who knows if Gatewood's going to come out and throw for 240 yards. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. I just think it's going to be weird, and I cannot wait to watch the game. I think we're going to shock the world again. The last time that we played anybody nearly as high ranked, we won the game. Just remember that. So, yeah, that's my pick. 43-40. All right.
Well, I hope you're right.
All right. Our good friend, Jeff Allen, by the way, that does the AAC report that you hear on the Knightline Sports Network here every week. This week is his 100th show. And Roger, you are on that 100th show. That's pretty exciting. I'm kind of upset that it wasn't me personally that was on that 100th show, but I was on there for the lead up to the season, I think, of the season starting. So I am a little upset.
Are you sure it's not because I'm better looking? Because, through the radio and podcast, that
I
makes all the difference in the
that
world.
is not the reason.
Oh, okay.
That's
all right.
obvious.
I thought it was star-studded event with beautiful people. I don't know.
No, definitely
but
not.
Listen, Jeff has done a great job. And like I told him on the podcast, I can't wait till you guys hear it. It takes a lot of dedication, blood, sweat, tears, and editing and time to put together a podcast.
Well, I edit his show, by the way. No, he does a little bit as well. He sends it to me, though, after. But anyway.
Okay. But, it takes a lot of that effort to be able to produce content consistently. Andrew and I can both attest, life gets in the way sometimes. And not only is he doing it for us, but he's also giving us a viewing window into the rest of the teams of the conference and vice versa. I asked him actually on the show, so a little bit of a spoiler alert here, whether he was going to, with the impending change to the Big 12, whether he was going to change it from the AAC report to the Big 12 report. He definitely said he didn't say yes, but he said there is definitely going to be a rebranding effort for the podcast. So I think that tells you everything you need to know. But Jeff's done a great job. He's he gives us.
You really think that it would be a spoiler alert telling me that?
What's that?
It's nothing. Forget it.
But at the end of the day, when we're looking at this and we're thinking about what he has done, he has created an environment where he's educating the rest of the fan bases in the American, and ultimately, has created a better environment and gives us a platform to reach out to more fan bases. So, he's done a great job. I always enjoy when I have the opportunity to be on. I was very humbled to be able to be on this milestone show with him, and just very appreciative of everything he's done.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I can't thank him enough because I begged him to do that show. Out of the blue, I begged him. I needed someone, and I wanted someone to do an AAC show. And he called me or emailed me one time about being on his show because he does a podcast as well. I think it's Jeff Allen Sports. Just a in general sports show, and he had contacted me to be on his show to do that, and I'm like, hey, I listened to one of his shows because I usually will listen to somebody's show before I go on their show just to see what it's like. And he called me, or I called him, and we talked about it, and I'm like, you know what, man, I love the way you do your show. I really want somebody to do an American show on our network, and I'll
America
put it out to my fans as well, the UCF Knightline fans, and then it was the first show on the Knightline Sports Network besides us, and graciously he did it, and through all the turbulence of everything for I don't know how many years he's been doing it now, a few. 100 shows worth once a week. He's taken some time off as well during the summer, just like us. So it doesn't, the 100 doesn't add up, just in line. So he's done it for a lot longer than 100 weeks. But thank God that he did the show. Because I think it's a great show, and I think he's the perfect person to do it. And I'm so glad that I was able to talk him into it and beg him to do it. So I think it's a great part of the Knightline Sports Network. And then the whole point was this is 100th show. So if you can go on Twitter, I think his handle is @JeffAllen_88. So go on there and tell him how happy you are that he's done 100 shows and that you love his show and all that stuff. If you do, I know that a lot of people listen to it. He's doing very well because I see the stats. And so I know a lot of y'all listen to it, and I appreciate y'all listening to it, and I know he does too. The other thing is he always does this AAC scoreboard for us every week. So here it is.
Let's take a look at the rest of the scores around the American. On Thursday night, Houston rolls to a 40-22 victory over Tulane. The Cougs sit atop the AAC at 3-0 and are 5-1 overall. Tulane falls to 1-5, 0-2 in conference. Friday night, number 5, Cincinnati got their style points in a 52-3 drubbing of Temple. They go to 5-0 on the season and winning their conference opener. Temple drops to 3-3, 1-1 in conference. SMU rallied to beat Navy 31-24. The 24th-ranked Mustangs remain unbeaten on the year at 6-0, winning both their conference games. Navy is now 1-4 overall, 1-2 in conference. Tulsa nabbed their first conference win, a 35-29 defeat of Memphis. The Golden Hurricane 1-1 in league play, 2-4 overall, while the Tigers have lost both their conference games this season and dropped to 3-3. I'm Jeff Allen. We'll wrap up last week's action and get you set for this week's games, including our Spotlight Game of the Week, UCF and Cincinnati. As Knightline's own Roger Phipps joins me to talk about that on the 100th episode of the AAC Report this week, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right. Even if you don't normally listen to the show, you got to listen to that one. That's Jeff's 100th episode. I'm sure you all listen to it anyway, though. So, and Roger Phipps is going to be on there. That's exciting. I'm like I said, I'm a little bummed that it wasn't me that was on that 100th episode, but whatever. It is what it is.
I was happy to do it.
Somebody else gets the spotlight every once in a while, I guess. It'll be all right. I'll be on another one. All right. Well, anyway, news and notes is next. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, like they say, no news is good news. UCF women's soccer played the Cows last week and lost 1-2. They're now 5-5-1.
UCF volleyball is currently 11-6 and are 4-1 in conference play after defeating Tulsa and losing to Houston 2-3.
All right, well, that's a winning record. Men's soccer as well, I believe, has a winning record. They're 5-4, yeah. 3-1 in conference play after losing to Memphis 0-3. They play number 6 Tulsa next. So, all right. Well, yeah, it is what it is. UCF is not in the greatest spot, I guess, right now for some of those sports, but there are other sports coming. Basketball, I just saw something in my email the other day that the basketball media day is coming up, so that's approaching fairly quickly. Another month or so, I believe, until basketball starts. And that should be a good, very good slate of games this year for basketball. So a lot of guys returning. Should be a lot of fun, and I'm sure Ben will tell us all about basketball. All right, this has been Knightline 265. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. BSETO or Y. Tonight our nights will shine.